looked at my uncle and...
Let me guess. He died?
Hello and welcome. Yes, that is a good guess. And welcome to the Mary Mater Marvel Society. I am one of your hosts, Davan Noir. See my hat? It's a noir hat.
It's an amazing hat, Davan.
Exact. Thank you. And our of course, joined with me here is our token mater, Dave.
Yes, thank you, Davan. I think today maybe we are the Mary Mater Spider Society, perhaps, for this,
I like
this
that.
particular podcast.
I like that. And also with us, of course, there's three of us. There's always three of us. We get along so well. Jaemeel Robinson. How are you doing, Jaemeel?
Salute, friends. Salute. It's been a while since I've been on a pod sabbatical. But I've brushed off the dust off my mic and come out of retirement for a very special mission.
Okay. And your love of Miles Morales?
We can get into that.
Okay, we shall. Okay, well, we're here to review here on the Mary Mater Spider Society. Ignore that. It's Spider now. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, of course. Second in a trilogy, as we're being told now.
Yes. So I didn't know that this was a trilogy. I had no idea. So, spoilers ahoy, by the way.
Oh, wait, hold on. I got a thing for that.
Okay.
There we go. Can't fault us now.
Okay. Spoilers.
Remember, the Mary Mater Marvel Society wants you.
Yeah, but like I didn't know that this was going to be a like a cliffhanger. This movie, and
neither did I.
Oh, okay. I was the only one who knew.
You knew? I was like,
yeah.
I was watching the movie, and I was like, it was like 2 hours and 50 minutes. I was like, they got a lot to wrap up here. Like, there's a lot to do, you know. And I was just like, what's happening? And then it ended, and I was like, oh. And so the first movie was called what? Into the Spider-Verse, and this is Across the Spider-Verse, and now
the last part is
Beyond.
Beyond. So we got Into, Across, Beyond. Okay,
just like Star Trek.
Kind of like Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams trilogy, perhaps.
This is way better than those. Yeah, I did not know either. Of course, same as you. I was watching it. I felt like we're like 2 hours in, and I'm like, this really just feels like we're getting to the third act. Maybe are they like really gonna wrap it up that fast? No, they're really gonna draw it out, but that's fine. I like what's happening here.
Not complaining. I was actually surprised, but Jaemeel, you were not. You knew all of this, so thank you.
What about my Jameel's got his ear to the ground. You know,
that's what I do.
I have my head in the woods, and Dave has his in the clouds.
I'm up in the web slinging, man. I'm going from building to building. We got to talk about this movie, man. We got to talk about this.
To talk about it, you know, how this a couple of ways we could go with this. We could have Tangled Web with Dave.
Yes, the Tangled Web, the multiverse.
Because he's such a fan, there could be Miles's Way or the Highway with Jaemeel.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Miles Way or the Highway with Jaemeel.
I'm up for all. I'm up for all of that.
I feel like we should leave it up to the fans.
So when do you want me to get into the Miles situation? Because you kind of brought it up at the beginning.
Well, let's put all cards on the table right off.
Okay.
You know.
All right. I'm what folks would consider a Peter Parker purist. When people talk about Spider-Man and that mantle, I don't consider it a mantle. I consider Spider-Man and Peter Parker one and the same. It's not like the Flash, where there's been a multitude of Flashes, right? You have your Wally West, you have your Barry Allen, Jay Garrick, right? Green Lantern's entire core, right? Of that. Spider-Man has primarily been one individual. And with Miles' introduction, I had a lot of mixed
Like the
feelings.
Spider-Man.
To be fair, Miles' introduction was like what, in 2003, or like it's been a while,
Yeah,
right?
with the
Okay.
Ultimate Universe,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of mixed feelings. I do appreciate the representation. I'm not a fan of Bendis Marvel work. His independent work I like a lot more, but his Marvel specific work I was never a fan. So Ultimate Spider-Man wasn't something that I particularly enjoyed.
What about Alias?
Uh, okay. His mainline Marvel work I was not a fan of. And Miles, it felt like it was Marvel's attempt of doing something close to the vein of Static. And I'm a huge fan of Static, so I'm seeing uh, Spider-Man and Static team up together, and not the actual characters actually intermingling. We got a different Peter, and we got someone in place for Static. Dave, I think you were trying to interject.
I was like, who's Static? I'm not familiar.
Oh,
It's a DC character.
a milestone character, but DC is a whole bag of worms when it comes to rights and who owns what and what belongs what. It's a different character, definitely inspired by Spider-Man, has electrical powers. We can get into it later. That's
Okay, so
another
you're
episode.
okay. Well, yeah, and
He's a
all
cartoon.
I'm mostly down for Miles Morales. I think he's an interesting new character in the mythos of the Spider world and the Spider-Man canon, and sort of like the next, like the Brooklyn Spider-Man, perhaps too, is sort of also how I'm kind of sort of developing my viewpoint on him, because he exists in the Ultimate Universe where Peter Parker dies and then he becomes Spider-Man. But then in the comic books over the last 20 years, they've they brought him into the main universe or something. And
Pretty recently with Secret
Pretty
Wars.
recent, dude.
and really all that matters to an extent, but now these movies I think are going to be the ultimate way how we look at Miles Morales, and this is going to define sort of what the public sort of image of him is, just despite whatever his origin was and how he was originally developed and how pitched, like this is what he is now. Which I think is a big deal, and it's sort of like kind of a counterpoint to Peter Parker, sort of coexisting side by side. I think now in that world, similar to I guess Batman, Robin, but even greater than that, because they're both Spider-Man. It's not like a Spider Boy and Spider-Man. It's not that dichotomy, right? So
And that ultimately was the issue that I had, because both of them technically are Spider-Man. And some people will go, well, how'd you feel about Miguel or Ben? And I'm like, those characters were never just Spider-Man. There was always, and there was a great, I hate to say it, TikTok discussion about it.
Ben's a clone of Spider-Man.
Regardless, right? He was never just Spider-Man. Miguel was Spider-Man 2099, and he was the Scarlet Spider, the sensational Spider-Man, right? And Marvel always went out of its way to specifically state that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. When Superior Spider-Man happened, when Doc Ock took over Peter's body, right? There was conflict with the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin was not really into the matchup because it wasn't his Peter. And when Peter took back his body, spoiler, it's a great story. You should still read it, folks, if you haven't.
Oh yeah.
When
It's my
Peter took
favorite.
over and he quipped the first time, all you see is Norman just look at him and go, "It's you." Right?
He makes fun of his man purse. He's just like, that's quite the friggin' threat coming from a guy who carries a man purse. He's just like, he was talking to Doc Ock all serious at first.
So
Yeah.
I traditionally always push back against the idea of Miles, right? Because ultimately, for Miles to really exist as it is, a Peter must die.
right, but
Right?
he's from
And right-
another dimension where Peter's dead, but he's so
Well, even
Like a lot of
in
Spider
MC
characters, Gwen's from another universe. Like that's
right.
like,
That's the
right,
whole point of
but-
these movies too. Like they,
Yeah.
they exist outside of the MCU. They're kind of its own story, which I think is kind of nice, and it's
But ultimately, I feel like his fate is to replace Tom
Holland.
Tom Holland,
Well,
right?
they got that in their back pocket anytime when he's out, whenever they can't afford him anymore or whatever. Or
So despite all this, I'll wrap this up because it's been going on a little long. Despite all this, I never cared for Miles until these movies. These movies are so good, right? That even an old curmudgeon like myself has to tip my hat and made me care for these characters, right? Many of them knew that I've never really interacted before and actually care about what their feelings are, the stakes that are being presented. So just that little preface, you'll see how I feel about this movie. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be pretty good.
That was It's All Curmudgeon with Jaemeel.
Did you have that in your back pocket? Or you just kind of typed it on the side there.
I can't reveal all my secrets.
Fair enough.
So, well, look, I came to Miles late myself because I didn't read the Ultimate Line. I dabbled, but I didn't much care for it. So, but so
Dave,
I only really came to Miles after during Secret Wars, and
I read the
then
wikis
since
mostly. Yeah.
and I just find, and in some of the teen books too, like he's in like the Champions and stuff, and I just find and I could have called myself a Spider-Man purist too. Like I freaking love Spider-Man. Oh my goodness, another one from the
Spider-Man's
Spider-Man.
my favorite too.
He's undeniably the best superhero ever. I think Peter Parker, just so good. But Miles is, I find, also an undeniably charming and likable character. Just like
so
I find, like, and in the comics too. Like I'm just like, you know what? I like this kid. He's different. He's like Peter, but he's different than Peter.
And he has
But he's
different
still
powers.
kind of like Peter. Yeah, he does. He has way more powers than Peter does. He's not nearly as strong.
But he has electrical. He can cloak.
Yeah. Do you kind of wish that he had like a different name? Like they couldn't figure out like a really good name until he takes over that mantle.
I think that it's a deliberate choice.
In the end, well, no, because he's a Spider-Man in his universe, so it's like he had that name and he kind of brought it over. But like in the end, they have taglines. Like in the end, there's only one friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. If you ever said the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, you know what you're talking about. Or like just Spider-Man. If you say the word Spider-Man, everyone's mind should immediately go to Peter Parker, and you should have to like qualify you're talking about Miles or somebody else.
Mine will now go to both of them, I think. Or I think it's sort of it's greater than just one Peter Parker character. I think that the Spider-Man is sort of deeper than that, and I think that I kind of liked that Michael Straczynski line in Spider-Man many years ago, where he had the Ezekiel and the weird spider mysticism. If you guys remember that stuff.
Look. I don't want to hear your shill Straczynski stuff here tonight, Dave. You're shilling for Straczynski here.
I just brought that out because I knew it antagonized Davan. I did that deliberately.
Well, look, I collected that run for a long time. It wasn't great.
I'm a slot man myself, so
that was just
slot man myself.
I was just getting going.
And props in remembrance to JR Senior, who recently passed away.
John Romita Jr. or John Romita Senior.
Quintessential Spider-Man artist. A lot of what we see in all of the movies, whether it even be a more recent one that's based on more recent comics, the groundwork, the foundation was built there by JR Senior, among others. But he's one of the most notable ones.
Yeah, the Spider-Man like toddler book I read my toddler, and it's the John Romita Senior art in that book. Like that's how iconic it is. Like that's what they want you to see as Spider-Man initially to get them hooked.
Guys, you know also iconic. This movie, I think, pretty good. I think this.
You want to talk about it? Oh, that settles it. That settles it. No, I want to talk about that mantle for 1 second. Like I agree with you, Jaemeel. Like Spider-Man's not a mantle. If you say Spider-Man, like Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Like, but he also in the comics is getting older and stuff. So it's more like a passing down at some point. Like he's gonna need someone to take over. Yeah, and Miles is that guy.
If the editorial team allows him to.
Well, it'll never happen in the comics for very long. But like in theory, in that world, But anyway, that's it. It's Tangled Web with Dave. What was this? How was this? How did this movie go, Dave?
What was the story?
Tangled the Web.
Yep.
Yep.
Do the story.
What was the story of this movie? The story of this movie is spoiler alert, by the way, if you don't
Spoilers.
know already.
Up Stalin.
Dave's gonna nail this, so you're like he's gonna ruin the movie for you.
This is a movie about different dimensions, different universes, different realities. This is a sequel to the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse. So if you don't know that movie, this is not going to make a ton of sense. But if you do know that movie, it will make sense what I'm about to tell you. So follow along. And I was surprised to find that this movie really starts off a lot with Gwen Stacy, more so than Miles Morales. Actually, the first whole teaser of this movie is all with Gwen Stacy and her
20
story.
minutes.
20 minutes of so. And then, we get into Miles Morales' story after that, catching up with him about even some time after that event. It's like a year and a bit after, and we get it with Miles, and he's doing the Spider-Man thing, but he's having a hard time. He's kind of similar to Peter Parker as a young guy who's having a hard time being a student and being a Spider-Man and trying to please everybody and be everywhere at once. And he's struggling there, but he's a smart guy. He knows physics or something. And then but Gwen Stacy comes back, and then she meets up with him, but she shouldn't. And there's a secret, but we don't know why. And we're finding out about the secrets, and then we find out that Gwen Stacy's on a secret mission, and Miles is following her. And we remember Miles can cloak himself. I still think this is a pretty cool ability. I forgot about this, that he can do this, unlike even other spider people can't see him, which I thought, or detect him, which I thought is a nice.
Miles way or the highway. You look like you have something to say there, Jaemeel.
Wow, bro, did you watch this movie? Okay. Okay.
Did I miss something?
You missed the kind of the beginning of it.
There's this little fight in a store.
Okay, not even that. We're jumped into Gwen's life and the ramifications of what happened in the first movie. Miles and Gwen are separated because they can no longer, cross between dimensions, and Gwen is faced with a dilemma with her father and the fact that Peter in her world passed away, and she's kind of framed for it in her father's eyes. Anyways, an interdimensional vulture from like a Renaissance world comes in and starts damaging the place. Gwen tries to stop. Miguel and Spider-Woman come in to save the day. Gwen impresses them with her handling, and she joins Miguel's team, who is put together to try and save the multiverse due to all of these, I would like to say, incursions that are occurring with the different elements bouncing into different worlds. So in this case, it was the Vulture who got sucked into a portal and ended up in Earth 6-5, which is Gwen's world.
But he was a Leonardo da Vinci vulture. He was like a paper
Renaissance.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I just couldn't understand how a Renaissance vulture was holding his own so well against so many modern spiders.
Well, it's a Renaissance
They had weapons
world.
and tricks.
Good point.
Yeah.
I think
It was a Renaissance world, but that means that didn't mean that the technology was stuck in what we consider the Renaissance. It just continued along those lines, right? That's the type of technology that was focused.
It's more cultural than technological, perhaps.
Yes. So we pick up with Miles, and Miles is dealing with this whole issues like Dave was mentioning. He eventually bumps into the Spot, who's trying to rob a convenience store, doing a poor job of it. Spot is very difficult to beat.
See
but
my Spot figure?
Yeah, voiced by Jason Schwartzman in this movie. Schwartzman.
Yes,
he was great.
I thought really good. I thought actually in this role.
Is it like just happened to him pretty much, and he's still just trying to figure out how to do this whole Spot thing? Like,
yes, I've always had felt that the Spot, despite being a very jokey character, is a very dangerous and tough one. And as you can see, it doesn't take much for a lot of Spidey's rogue galleries to become like world-killing like monsters, right? And from the interactions, Miles doesn't really take Spot seriously. He kind of takes care of him, but he doesn't really defeat him. He kind of just, you know, kind of holds him in place. And then he obviously has to leave because he has to deal with this life, and it's the whole, back and forth with being Spider-Man and being Miles that he has to deal with. What's happening with his future because he has college admissions that he has to worry about and getting into colleges. His family is worried about where exactly his head is at. He's feeling the loneliness of the role, and the struggle and the pull from the secret identity. Anyways, we pick up. Gwen shows up.
His parents are pretty great in this too. Like his parents are always
Fantastic and very reasonable. It's very easy to get into that the parents are like out of touch, right? But it's not the case. They do a great job of making everyone make sense, right? We all have different perspectives, and seeing that play out with the different characters on screen makes us care about when they interact, when the different opinions and forces, bump into each other. That's where drama is produced. When it's the stereotypes that you've seen like forever. Oh, they're old and out of touch and don't know the lingo. Like, it just seems very lame. It is what you would see maybe 20 years ago from a Marvel production or from any type of superhero fare, right? Everyone's a stereotype except the main character, who's also a stereotype, but just a lesser such, right? There's no real drama. There's no real character work. There's no real stakes. And there's stakes for everyone. His parents have stakes. What's happening with his future, right?
This movie's intense sometimes.
It
You're
is
like, man,
very
this is intense.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
really good.
Dave,
And-
you
yeah.
want me to
So
pass the baton back to you?
well, what else is there to say? Really, like that's most of it. It was
That's the start of it. Yeah.
yeah, like there was a lot of spider people, and they were going around and they were shooting webs. What else, guys?
All right.
It was
So
fun. This movie was
Miguel
a lot of
You want me
fun.
to take it back
mad.
again?
Well,
Well,
like I
it-
think
this-
I think we might be going a little too serious here, guys. I think we just gotta go. What was the experience you had with this movie? And I would say that I had a pretty good Spider-Man movie here.
Dave,
yeah.
okay, let me quickly wrap up the plot and then we can get into the finer details.
Okay, what was the plot?
All right. So Gwen comes to seemingly to hang out with Miles. That's what Miles assumed. She's actually there on the mission with the Spider team to look into the Spot because the Spot is seems to be a threat. And with Gwen spending too much time with Miguel, she misses out with the Spot actually powering himself out and able to transfer to other dimensions. Gwen separates herself from from Miles. I keep on saying Miles, and goes back to the Spider base, which is in Nuevo York. I always mess that up.
New York. Yeah.
Right, and
Party
where the home base is,
29.
which is Miguel's home place, and Miles sneaks in by turning invisible, like Dave likes so much, and eventually stumbles upon this whole entire plot that's happening where the Spider team is there trying to, stop the incursions, return the elements that don't belong in their dimension back to their home dimension. We learned that the Spot is going to Alchemax, right? And in each different dimension to power himself more and more. His motivations is he doesn't want to be treated as a joke by Miles, and he's gonna show what kind of real supervillain he can be. So you have that going on. There's tension between Miguel and Miles. Miles doesn't really understand it, but we later learn that uh, Miguel feels that Miles shouldn't be Spider-Man due to himself being somewhat of an incursion. Uh, the spider that bit him should have gone to a different world, right? And should have stayed in its own world. It came from a different world, and that world doesn't have a Spider-Man. So we go on, we learn about canon events. Due to trying to stop the Spot, Miguel accidentally or purposefully, he didn't know the ramifications of it, saves Spider-Man India's father-in-law, future
Peter
father-in-law,
Prabhakar.
right? And
Pavita
um,
Prabhakar.
His version of Captain Stacy, basically.
yeah, his version is right, and changes his world, which causes a massive incursion that the team has to try and save.
Because Spider-Man, all Spider-Men are supposed to have the same amount of good things and bad things that happen to them. They have like these tragedies and whatever, like these certain like.
Not, I wouldn't not
Thinking
necessarily.
about my past.
I
Okay.
don't necessarily believe that it's certain things. I believe it's certain elements that make Spider people who they are. Right? There's a certain type of groundwork. Let's just say like a
They all
giant
need it.
web.
They all need an Uncle Ben. They all need like a Mary Jane, basically, right?
Their main trait is, and they express it very well in this movie, is the main trait that connects all Spider-Man, and what separates him from other superheroes is he will never make the decision to save one person over another. Spider-Man and Spider-Man believe they can save everybody, and they will always try to save everybody, and nobody else does that. Like Captain America, he'll just make a choice. Iron Man, he'll make a choice. Like the X-Men, same. Spider-Man won't make that choice.
Captain
And
America
sometimes
will
that
jump.
is impossible and it's folly and everyone dies. But like, Spider-Man will try to save everybody. And you know what? Really, almost always does because he's freaking Spider-Man.
Captain America will jump on top of the grenade. Spider-Man believes that he can figure out a way to get rid of the grenade so everyone is safe. No one dies. No one
He
dies.
won't settle for any other plan. Yeah, no one
Yes.
dies. That's
That's the plan, and that's what's going to happen. Does it always work out? No, right? But
so he's why he's not a practical leader like Captain America. Because you can't, if he
sure,
can't make those tough decisions, he refuses to.
correct. So let's speed it up.
That's why he's the greatest superhero.
So they're like,
Of
you,
all
yeah,
time.
if you can't, your dad has to die because everyone needs a Gwen Stacy, everyone needs a Captain Stacy because I guess every Spider-Man has to have a clone eventually too, presumably.
They say like all Spider-Mans just have a cop that hassles them. It doesn't have to be Captain Stacy necessarily. It just has to be some cop.
Every Spider-Man needs a J. Jonah Jameson or some equivalent, you know.
But I don't think it's necessarily literal. I think it is, if people take the time to really go over what is being told. There's different elements of that makes a Spider-Man: tragedy, the acceptance of responsibility, the critic that always needs to be there to kind of make sure that they're kept humble and aware of their place in the world. Like, there's different elements of spider worlds that they're kind of discussing there that I think is really interesting and can be like looked over for a multitude of years. Regardless, plot. Uh, so the falling out of Miles and Miguel occur, and Miles is sent back to his world, or what they assume. But when they scanned him, what accidentally happened was he went back to the world where his spider that bit him came from.
Right, because that's the big reveal. His spider was from another dimension.
Yes.
So therefore, that's why his powers are all kind of weird, and he's kind of weird.
No, I didn't necessarily take it as that.
That's why it's setting off an incursion,
right?
Like he's not supposed to be Spider-Man.
He's not supposed to be Spider-Man, is what Miguel's feels. At the same time, individuals did not necessarily agree with Miguel's approach. Most specifically, Herbie, which is Spider-Punk.
I agree, Sam. I agree.
Spider-Punk reminds me of Benny, our mutual friend here.
Spider-Punk, and then eventually Gwen did not appreciate, and Peter B. Parker also didn't agree. Right, and eventually they leave the team. Herbie eventually helps out Gwen to create a team to go and support Miles, but she ends up going to the wrong world, thinking that Miles is in his actual world, his real world, not the spider
Yep.
where the spider originated
That
from.
was a great reveal.
Regardless,
I loved that when you find out that the mom
they
he's
did a
talking
great
to
job.
isn't his real mom, and I was like, oh, we're on
Right.
Earth 42. He's not from
In
Earth
this
42.
in this world, Miles's father passed away, right? The Prowler still lives, and he had taken the Miles of that world under his wing, and the Miles of that world is the Prowler. So, and that's
He's
where we
gonna
kind of left
kill him,
off.
and that's the cliffhanger. Okay, and that's the story, right?
There you
That's
go.
the
It
story.
took me a while to get there.
But good job,
All
Jaemeel.
right.
Right. So
Good
that's what
job,
happened.
Jaemeel.
That's what happened. And what I didn't understand
That
was
that was Miles Way or the Highway with Jaemeel.
but okay, like if
What's the impressions and takeaways?
if that spider had bit that Miles of that world, would he have been Spider-Man? Or was he meant to be
Yes,
Spider-Man?
legitimately in the eyes of Miguel O'Hara.
Yes.
Isn't this whole idea of fate, this whole thing of like so, there's no
It's the
self-determination.
web of destiny. It's the web of
There's destiny. Like there's not self-determination here. Like, or there is, like, and that's what Miles is
all
going against.
spiders are connected. There's a certain amount of in a Spider-Man's life or a spider being's life
Woman.
that is determined. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, okay, I thought that there was a very cool cliffhanger where
With
it's
life
like
and destiny. That's
an
it.
evil universe and evil Miles who was all aggressive and there at the end, and then like there, but then
Yeah.
at the end,
Yeah.
also Gwen Stacy had put together like her own like rogue group of spider people to go against the Miguel O'Hara, like Spider-Man 2099. Who, by the way,
Ham.
Spider-Man 2099 is a dick.
Spider Noir.
He's and all like, and I like that they had the breakaway group here with like the Gwen Stacy Spider Woman and like the Spider Punk and the Spider-Man India, and I think they had Spider-Man Noir was back too, right? And
so was Spider. Was it Priya? What was her name? She was from the first one.
That one that was like in the big robot thing, in the mecha
Penny
thing.
Parker.
Yes.
Yeah.
One issue I had that kind of bugged me. I know they did it to simplify things, but Gwen Stacy is not Spider-Woman. She is Ghost Spider.
Oh,
that is her character's name. But I understand they did that to make it more simple and more, just smooth it out. But
her book is called Spider-Gwen, but she's called Ghost Spider. They should just really change the name of her book to Ghost Spider. But
her name in like they call her the Ghost Spider.
Yeah, she's Ghost Spider.
Should be called Spider Ghost, not Ghost Spider.
Well, that's just
Spider Ghost sounds weird.
Ghost Spider sounds weird.
Spider Ghost.
You can't go Ghost Spider.
Ghost Spider. It still has a hyphen.
I like Spider Ghost. That's what I'm going. I'm pushing for.
I like Spider Ghost.
Okay,
starting right here, guys.
Spider Ghost.
In the Mary Mater Spider Society, we say Spider Ghost or Spider Woman.
Okay. So, Dave, what are your impressions and takeaways if we can kind of get this train?
I got so many, guys. Okay, like this movie was fun. This movie had a really interesting animation and was kind of really innovative in a lot of visual aspects and sort of how they presented the story. Although the story, I think at times I was sort of like into it. Other times I felt out of it a lot with like the stuff with his family and the emotional stuff. It was mostly good, but it wasn't 100% for me. But I thought it was fairly long. I thought that the reveals were good. I thought that it was an interesting plot. I think that these different spider people were used in interesting ways. I thought the comedy. I loved the romance between the Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. I thought that was a whole interesting new thing to kind of introduce into the Spider-Man lore that I had never really considered before in this alternate dimensions of spider people. And I think the cartoon version is the best place to do a story like this, just like the first movie, to kind of interleave all these different, if you're going to go like Crisis on Infinite Earths Spider-Man style, this is kind of that version of it, and you get them all kind of clashing here, but not that there can only be one, not in that aspect, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that I was like, okay, this is really fleshing out the Miles Morales character for me and Gwen Stacy more so than what their original takes were. Like they're becoming more than that original idea. Just like a lot of characters do once they hit the big screen. So that's how I mostly came away with it. I thought it was good. I thought the stuff with Donald Glover was fun. He was like the Prowler from the MCU. and he was in the cage there, or he might be the Prowler one day if they ever do a Miles Morales in the MCU, which I'm sure they will eventually. It's all just about when. And so, yeah, I thought it was fun.
Okay. Devin, you want to go or do you want me to go?
After you, sir.
Okay. I thought this movie was fantastic, and this is coming from someone who really is very hesitant to give Miles his flowers, but this movie was ultimately just very wonderful. I enjoyed it. I was invested in almost every single thing that happened, with the exception of one thing that still annoys me to this day, and that is the portrayal of Scarlet Spider. Right? I did not like it. I was not a fan. As
I didn't
someone
like it
who-
either. I was like,
I was thinking about his pants, Jaemeel.
why
I'm
was
thinking about
why
that
was the Ben Riley
past.
like the tortured Spider-Man? I didn't understand that.
Because he's this clone, and it was a lot of inner monologue stuff in those '90s comics, and just like the twisted, like lamenting of Ben Riley, and yeah,
I
like there's a reason I didn't read Spider-Man comics in the '90s for a
I
reason.
did. I did, and I actually like really loved Ben Riley.
Me
So
too.
much
I
so
was a
that
fan.
I have a lot of problems with how they portray him now in the comic books now. Don't read the comic books about Ben Riley now, folks. It's torturous. But still, um besides that, besides that,
He came back as a
I,
villain recently, Ben Riley.
Yeah.
He's
God.
like the new Jackal.
Let's not.
I don't like that either. That's no
The
good.
clone conspiracy storyline was stupid.
Anything with
Regardless,
clones is bad.
I
Well,
disagree,
The
it
but
could be
Deep Space
good. They just
Nine.
make the writers always just make bad choices with clone stories. I find so.
I disagree. We're losing. We're losing. the
We're
plot
not a
here.
We're
tangent
losing it.
here.
We're losing it.
Okay, Dave, I don't think that you gave it enough credit in terms of the animation. The animation in this is brilliant.
Yeah.
And it
Beautiful.
wasn't brilliant because it looked good. It was good because it was a plot device that
And the
we
meshing of them all.
oh my gosh. Gwen's world is different than Miguel's world, is different than Miles' world, and different than Spider-Man India's world. All the worlds look different. And but all of them feel real and have their own like messages, and itself is a plot device, right? You see Gwen's feelings, her emotions are being painted on the screen, and then she has a brief reprieve from her depression to hug her father, and you see the colors change and get warmer, right? So great to like even you're looking at Nouveau York, and how amazing it looks, and how like the different levels are different and just fully fleshed out. Like you feel like there's an actual real world in each of those worlds. It isn't just like, well, there's the backdrop of different world. There's it's Spider-Man India, so it looks kind of like India, right? It looks like a realized world, a realized New York that people live in, that stuff happens, that you can go into a portal and see it. Anyways, animation fantastic. Probably the best animated piece of work I've seen in the last 2 years, I will say. Puss in Boots is good. Sorry, but this is a lot better. Blows it away, right? I've already talked at length about the emotional stakes in the writing of this. This is excellently written, excellently voice acted. Nothing seemed out of sort, right? The characters made sense. I didn't feel like I was, and this is to throw shade at a different thing that we didn't review. I didn't feel like I was watching Christopher Pratt playing Spider-Man, right? Or Oscar Isaac playing Miguel, right? It was Miguel's voice. It was Miles's voice. It was Gwen's voice. All
Man.
distinct, all filled with
It
emotion,
was Thunderpunk's voice.
right?
It's a standout for me right there.
He's
Spider-Punk.
he's an
Makes me mad I
absolute. These
traded my
characters
Spider-Punk away.
stand out, and honestly, I didn't think I would say it I can't wait, and I'm kind of hoping that Sony forgets about making live action Spider-Man movies. They
Oh, yeah.
found what they're good at. They're fine. They found what they're good at. They have a good voice.
You've made the 2 best Spider-Man movies of all time. No, it's true,
Yes.
Jaemeel.
Is this
I'm
okay? Where do you
admitting it.
put this?
I'm
Is
here.
this
You know
movie
how much
an
this hurts
amazing
me.
movie for you? Is this like is this the best Spider-Man movie you've ever seen? Where does it rank for you?
Well, we'll get to rankings at the end, won't
There's
we?
no like
My
for me. There's no need to rank it. It is good. It is really good. I don't think
only
that
ranking it.
if you're a fan of Spider-Man, if you're a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of storytelling, this is going to be up there for you.
It's a good
Right?
movie. I agree. I'm a fan of all those things, and I
No,
agree
I
with
don't.
you.
I think that you are not giving it its flowers. You saying it's a good movie isn't good enough, in my opinion.
Okay.
No, it's the best it's the most beautiful animation I've ever seen.
Okay,
And it's
I
like I was expecting the first one again, but they actually really upped the animation game from the first one even, and I was really impressed by that.
For an animated movie, pretty good. But animated movies can only be so good on the scale of movies, you know. So because of course live action movies are superior, of course.
So it's not looking good for Babylon 5 the animated series.
Well, I'll see it, but it won't. It's obviously like you do it because you have to. It's a necessity because like half the cast is dead now, and you can never get it made. So, but
Well, here's my impressions and takeaways. I think it's the Miles Morales trilogy, but this is the Gwen movie in that trilogy, which is fine. It was nice to really get her backstory with her father and stuff was really good, and why she ran away to be a spider cop, basically, in the life of Web and Destiny, or Web of Life and Destiny. But here's my only issue with this movie, other than it being a cliffhanger, which I didn't know was going to happen. I thought it was going to be more like the last one, which can be part of a whole, but not be a direct cliffhanger where you're not even going to get a third act, which it didn't need. It was still very good, but like there's no resolution at the end, which is a little bit annoying. Um, but the biggest thing is Prowler isn't a threat. I don't see how one Miles Morales as the Prowler and his uncle, who's also the Prowler helping him, are a threat to these spider people. It,
I don't
I
think. I
don't
think
get
he's
it.
just he's just in a tough situation in that moment. You know, he's
Like
just stuck.
Spot better still be the main threat because this
Oh, he definitely is. I think this is
Prowler's
just
not a
like
threat.
he just stepped into a trap, and it happens to be his doppelganger. I don't think it's meant to be like he's the new big bad. I think it's just this is
I
just.
I hope not.
I would slightly disagree. I don't think he's not necessary. I still believe he's a threat. He's not the threat. I think he's a threat in the sense that Miles and a
One
lot of
Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
beats one Prowler all day, every day.
True, but this is if Peter didn't have his powers, would Peter still be a threat?
Not as big a one as Prowler without his
But
powers.
still, what? But I mean, like he could still.
He's still
He's
smart.
still smart.
be a
He's a
threat.
super genius. Yeah, actually, he's still probably more of a threat than a Prowler if you count as
Yeah.
super genius.
So I think he's going to be like the obstacle at the beginning, but the Spot is the threat.
Yeah, because they're talking about the problem with Miguel's having is that they're breaking the multiverse, like Miles basically just by existing. But like Spot's doing that all over the place, so Spot has to become their focus more so than he has been. It's pretty great. Spot's a pretty fun villain.
Yeah, I think
love
his motivations were
Spider-Punk.
good. Spider Punk was a great character. Spider Man India was all that stuff. I it was a lot of
Yep.
ton of fun. You know, this one, the
She's
Spider
a
Woman.
takeoff Jessica Jones or Jessica Drew.
True. Yeah.
I think
It's
I
They're
wasn't.
still
Drew
allowing you to
comic.
have
She
Jessica
was
Drew.
pregnant.
I didn't
Yeah.
love
Yeah, it's
her.
just
I
because
read that run. That run, I actually did like that run.
Me
She
too.
wasn't my
It was a
favorite
good run.
character in this one.
Porcupine
She
was all
wasn't
in it.
really a character per se. She was really there to, I would say, kind of as a plot device, because we haven't really seen. She's one of those characters that we haven't really seen her kind of push the plot like her own feelings. She kind of like, okay, agreed that Gwen should be a part of the team, and you know, kind of told Gwen, "Be careful, it's happening." But what is her own individual motivations? She doesn't have any right now, right?
Yeah, well,
So
she's just kind of like a Miguel Spider-Man 99 guys who ends up becoming the antagonist here basically, or secondary antagonist at the very least. She's kind of his lieutenant, right? And his second in command, and so therefore that's her main purpose in the story is just kind of to be kind of giving Gwen a hard time and sort of being on his side, and we see most of the Spider people agree with the methods here, even though I was a little surprised that it's basically only a handful of the Spider people who were kind of against his like choices here, even though you could definitely see the necessity or like the logic of it all, and like that they seem to be on the correct side of the choice. But the whole self-determination versus fate, and this whole like and define sort of like your destiny and the consequences of that are kind of like the metaphysical questions that this movie leaves us with, right? In the end.
So where does what hit you guys from the Surpriserverse?
ooh,
I was
What surprised
surprised.
me was that there was no cameo by Tom Holland at all, because they showed a lot of Tobey Maguire and they showed a lot of Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield.
yep. We got a Venom World cameo, but that's it.
Yeah. So
What surprised me is the implications of what they're talking about. Because if Marvel does decide to run with what Sony has presented, then it kind of retcons a lot of concepts that have been introduced very recently from No Way Home. And that would be Multiverse of Madness. One that technically Peter and Doctor Strange from 19999 or 616 from their perspective is responsible for the incursions, right? When ultimately Miguel says that the root cause is Miles and the 42 spider, right? That's one thing. Two, we're seeing incursions occur repeatedly, so it isn't just Doctor Strange who's technically trying to look after incursions right now. We also have Miguel and his team of spiders that are doing so, right? Ultimately, it feels like we're going to end up with a combined universe. So this could blend into Secret Wars, could, or it doesn't have to. It could be in its own separate thing. I prefer, honestly, because when you have something that is so good like this, where it's not like it's not a story. This is art. You want the art to be separated from everything else because you don't want like, man, I like Beyond the Spider-Verse, but how it tied into Thor, Love and whatever, sucked. I don't want to have that sour taste in my mouth. This thing is doing a great job by itself. Keep it that way. It's good, cohesive story. That's all I want.
I agree with that, but if they want to, they can definitely like spin this into
Could.
Secret Wars.
They could.
If they're talking about incursions already, like in
Yeah.
this, it basically is Secret Wars. This is like the start of Secret Wars.
Well, maybe
Like,
they should,
if
because
they want it to be.
if it's a good story and it's imaginative and it's going to be fun, then why not do it? Like you gotta weigh those options. But I think that this is a fantastic movie too. But it can only be so high up. Like I'll never put this higher than like an Avengers movie or anything like that. Like
What's your Avengers movie?
If you ask me,
So, what are some memorable Marvel
would you
moments in this movie from you guys? For you guys, what sticks out in your mind from this one?
memorable moments?
Dave?
Yeah. the stuff in India was a lot of fun for some reason. I think that the India world, that was the Moonbatten, and like a lot, like visually, that was maybe my favorite art style, because basically this movie is showing how in the comic books you get the different artists and they draw these different characters in different ways, and you get sort of different realities because of that. And sort of this movie is paying a lot of homage to that. And so this particular India world I thought was very colorful and interesting and fun. And I think the stuff with Miles and Gwen Stacy, like their romance stuff, actually that was pretty strong. And I thought the stuff with his mom was good, in particular. Yeah, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'll see the next one, but I don't know. Like, I'm also kind of left away with like, does this matter? Does this tie into a bigger storyline, or will this just sort of be done when this third movie comes out, and then we'll move on to the next thing?
So to answer your question, does it matter? To me, yes, it does, because it matters to the characters. I don't care if it blends into something else. That's gravy. If
The
it matters
character
to
of
the
Miles
characters,
will carry on in some
and
fashion.
and I care about these characters. Anyways, memorable moments. I really enjoyed the scene with Miles and Gwen upside down looking at the
Yes,
city,
great
right?
scene. Yeah.
That was a great scene that really, not even their romance, because I honestly don't care if it's a romantic relationship they
Well,
end
their
up.
relationship, it doesn't have to be like them kissy
Mhm.
kissy, but like it's just like their connection, I guess, is what I'm talking
It's
about.
the connection.
Second thing, I love the beginning with Gwen. That whole intro was great, and Gwen kind of recapping what happened in the previous movie, right? And indicating the similarities between the two of them. And he's not alone. And it's not just him. Repeating that line over and over again, right? To kind of detail the parallels. Quickly, third one was when Gwen had to make the decision to save the people below in the art museum, and she has that breath, and you can see what her style of being a superhero is, and how she moves to the beat of the drum, right? And that is like her driving focus, her pendulum that allows her to swing into action. If I could be a little poetic in that regard, I thought that was fantastic. I can go on and on with the little distinct things and the character moments between Miles and his father in costume, and the different interaction between the different Spider people. Spider Punk in general. You could just put like a big Spider Punk moments, all of them. Um, there was a lot of talk online going into the movie that to people who reviewed the movie before, because we kind of watched it late, saying that this movie didn't do the characters justice, and I absolutely disagree with that thought
I
process.
disagree
And
as
whoever
well.
said that, you can message me and I'll gladly tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
messed.
I will give up
I
the
tell
floor.
you.
I'll give up the floor to Davin. Go ahead.
Well, for me, it was Mayday Parker. I love Mayday Parker. Um, I like my baby spider that I have. My baby wears Spider-Man elbow pads and knee pads and gloves, and she's my little Mayday Parker. Uh, yeah, Mayday Parker was great, and Spider-Punk. Spider-Punk was like shockingly good, and so was the Spot. But
Yeah.
yeah, Spider-Punk's so funny. She's like, "Oh, how are you even cooler without the mask?"
Yeah.
And like in the talk about the animation of Spider-Punk, how his color scheme just constantly switches, was like a pleasure to look at. It was so interesting. You just wanted to keep seeing like the style and color they would keep changing him into. Yeah, good stuff. Mayday
And
Parker.
Daniel Aluya did the voice of him.
Yeah. Mm. Kaluuya, isn't it Kaluuya?
Is it Kaluuya? Yeah, if the guy
Yeah.
from
Get Out.
Get Out, and he
Yeah.
was in Black Panther, the
Black
first
Panther.
one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was good, and like, yeah, Michael B. Parker was, or sorry, Peter B. Parker.
And I like the chase too, where Miles is escaping like 1,000 Spider-Man. It just shows his prowess, and
That was fun.
it
Yeah.
allows him to stand out as a spider person.
I the whole idea of like interesting a concept of like Spider-Man versus an entire Spider-Verse, right? Like one Spider-Man, no matter who that Spider-Man is, like how can you face
He's
those
one of the
people?
special ones, is what it shows you. Like
Right.
there's like our Peter Parker, there's like Miles, there's a
Peter
few
Parker's more
special Spider
ordinary,
people.
more of an ordinary Spider-Man, and this is more of an extraordinary Spider-Man. Or ultimate,
There's
perhaps.
like a million Peter Parkers, but like
Yeah.
our Peter Parker.
Well, and this
Tom
movie
Holland.
showed that there's more than one Miles Morales too. But
Yeah, exactly. Well, do you have a ratings thing to bring up, Dave?
sure, let me get that going.
Oh, this is gonna be so tough.
It is
Can I
gonna be tough.
retroactively just lower the ratings of other things that came before?
Yes.
Uh,
Just go
It's
high
a
with
living
this one. Just
document.
give it its due. Just give it its due.
hold on.
I'm gonna.
Dave's gonna give it like an 8.5. You know it. You know it.
It's a pretty good rating though
It's not
from
good enough.
him. No, it's not.
Sorry. All right, here we go. Add to stream. All right, so
Here we go.
I guess I'm always first. I'm always like, so I liked it.
It's just a Mater Society.
This is a 9 for me. It's good.
Oh, peer pressure.
Generally, okay.
9.8.
9.8. What?
9.8.
Why the 2.2 deduction?
Because I have high hopes for Beyond.
Okay. You're leaving a little extra. You're saving it.
And if
Davan.
I can go back and give it a 10.
Here's the thing, fellas. Do I give it a 10 or do I punish it for being a cliffhanger?
Well, or you reserved your, the option to improve it later.
Like it's a 10, but I was annoyed that it's not a complete.
Yeah, you wanted something a little bit more
entity.
sustained, like a separate chapter that wasn't necessarily have to lead into it. Yeah,
Like they could at least wrapped up one of those things. Wrap
Would
up
you
the spot thing, or wrap up the Prowler thing. Like introduce it a little earlier and wrap that up. Like I don't know. What was was there any kind of conclusion here?
Would you prefer if
any story element?
Gwen standing up to it, and like there were some things that were established, but you're right. It's like almost like we don't have the third act. So,
would you preferred if it was Miles gets home, has this conversation with his mom, and then Gwen says that she's gonna go and save him, and then you see that the Miguel team is coming to get him. So it's kind of a cliffhanger, but it isn't. It's like Miguel got home, Miles got home, and then later on in in one of these scenes, you see that it isn't the world that he belongs to. Doesn't necessarily reveal that it's.
Oh, so it ends on him just being in the wrong world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a better ending, I think.
Okay.
And it wouldn't have made me have the other thing where I think that maybe the Prowler's not a threat. But you know what? I'm still giving it a 10 because it was still just beautiful and fantastic, and the characters are amazing. Yeah, you just love them all, except the ones you're not supposed to. Like,
But even then, I can still jive with Miguel. I just feel like he's misguided.
guys, this has a 9 out of 9.0 on IMDb with 121,000 votes.
Too low on IMDb.
Well, that matches my vote of a 9. We're averaging a 9.6 among the three of us here. I'm pulling that way down, guys.
Too low.
Way down, yeah.
It's not as good. It's one of the highest things we've rated. Actually, it is the highest rated thing we have so far.
Probably should be
tied with Werewolf by Night,
which was fantastic.
Yeah. And I brought that rating a little bit down.
You did.
Werewolf by Night. I was like, it's an 8.2. So,
have you rewatched it yet? So you could change it to a higher score?
Why would I change it? The movie's it's good. It's not great.
See, that just tells me you have to rewatch it.
Hey, Jaemeel, is Across the Spider-Verse better than Werewolf by Night?
Yes, because it's a complete.
You can make that happen, Jaemeel. You can make that happen.
Jaemeel, you gave a 10 to Werewolf by Night. You gave a 9.8.
You can make that happen.
It's a complete story, Davan. Werewolf by Night is a complete story.
All right.
All right. What will be our next podcast, guys? What will we rate next?
Secret Invasion
Secret Invasion. Okay, when does that start?
next week.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Are you
Then
excited
it'll
for
be
it?
the Marvels, I believe. Oh yeah, I
No.
am excited for it. If they can
Secret
capture
Invasion, then Loki,
tone
then
of
I'm excited for Loki. I can't wait for Loki to come back. That's the one I'm really holding out for. But
Dangerous.
Secret Invasion, I'm like, whatever, Scrolls or something. You know.
oh man, if they can capture the tone of like Winter Soldier, it'll be amazing.
Spycraft. I'm excited for more Spycraft. Ground level type of storytelling. I don't need. There's a
Flirt,
time for
Fury Lit.
space stuff and cape. Who was it? People are saying cape shit now. That's the whole slur that people say about superheroes.
One of the big three:
I just-
robots, wizards, and monsters, or whatever. The big three.
Yeah.
You know?
Doctor Strange was a sorcerer. Well, was it a sorcerer is a wizard without a hat?
Yeah.
Do you guys want some trivia?
Oh, trivia.
Sure.
Yeah. At a runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes, this is the longest American animated film to date, surpassing the previous record holder, Consuming Spirits, by 4 minutes.
I heard that. Yeah.
This is a pretty long movie. Was originally scheduled to be released in April of 2022, but it was delayed to October 7th due to pandemic, and it was later changed to June 2nd of this year, 2023.
Next one is like a year from like exactly now. It's just like a year from now.
Yeah, they're probably developing them sort of back to back.
They haven't done any of the voice acting yet for the new one.
Oh, okay. So I get that getting it out next year is going to be a challenge, I think. But
not necessarily.
The animation's done.
The animation's done before the voice. Don't they always do the voice work first before the animation?
For this one, because majority of the people are in masks, right? And then now with the technology, especially with 3D technology, you can mimic the mouths to whatever the voice acting does. It's the timing that they have to worry about.
Okay.
So the turnaround time is not that bad.
All right. Guys, more trivia. The inclusion of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, the character he plays in the live action films, in this voice cast gives him a direct link not just to the MCU, but to the pre-MCU Tobey Maguire Spider-Man era that started with Spider-Man 2002, 20 years earlier. So he's well established. He might be the most iconic J. Jonah Jameson now, if he wasn't already.
Wait, he is like
He was already the one from Tobey.
No, I like the one on the Spider-Man, the cartoon in the 90s. That was a good one.
He's good too.
Yeah. Spider-Punk is an alternate universe mixture of both Spider-Man and the original Prowler. The original Hobie Brown was the first Prowler, a petty theft turned after being redeemed by Spider-Man. Aaron Davis would become the new Prowler in 2011. This is Oscar Isaac's fourth Marvel project, playing after Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse. Remember that? Oh, man.
Nope, I don't.
Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099 in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the previous movie, of course, and well as Moon Knight in the TV series Moon Knight. So Oscar Isaac's lots of Marvel characters now attributed to him.
Get those residuals.
This is both Haley Steinfeld, Brian Tyree Henry, Oscar Isaacs, Daniel Kaluuya, Catherine Hahn have appeared in the MCU as well. So this is all very tied in. And the sequence on Earth 13122, the Lego universe, was animated by 14-year-old Preston Matunga, who was hired after Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were impressed by his Twitter videos recreating the entire trailer with Legos.
Yep.
That was in the movie. That was a fun part with the Lego Spider-Man, and then it was all changes.
Yeah, that was funny.
And stuff. Yeah,
that was a great job. I hope the kid has a bright future, and I hope he gets his fair money from this. Pay for his college, folks.
I hope so. Guys, guess what I'm going to go see tomorrow?
The Blackening?
No. Flash.
Oh, okay.
Oh, don't do it.
No, I'm already
You're
signed
better
up.
than that.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go. I'm going to see what the Flash and Michael Keaton's going to be there and all that stuff, you know?
My thoughts regarding it. Although I appreciate that it isn't a movie of one person. Enjoy your chicken, Sam. He just got KFC, is what he told us. Although a movie isn't just made up of one individual, there's a multitude of individuals who are in a picture. There's still a responsibility and the fallout if an individual does things that are heinous and should not be rewarded. And DC's approach to this movie has been one where of half measures, where they say that they've cut ties with him, with them, with Ezra, but then Ezra is still going to be considered for any future projects from the director. Ezra's not going to appear at the premiere, but still, Ezra does show up at the premiere, right? There's half measures, and I can't at this time financially support this project because I would feel like I'm condoning it. You make your own decisions, Dave. It's up to you. You're individual. But for me personally, I don't think I'm going to give the Flash a dime of my money. And that's
I don't
where
like
I'm gonna
Ezra
draw
Miller
the line.
either. I'm not endorsing Ezra Miller by going to a movie, but that's my version of things. But
Fair enough.
it's but I respect your choices as well, of course. And I'm gonna see. I'd rather he wasn't
What did Azaria do?
what did Ezra do?
No. Let's move on. Did you know we're the part of a united federation of podcasts?
I did know this. Yes,
We have
absolutely.
we have things like Super Mater Brothers, which we're on right now.
Yeah, that's this channel, but this is often we're talking about things like Survivor and Big Brother USA coming our way in August. Normally we would have already been maybe started by now, but
No,
not this
July.
year. Well, at least by early July we would have been going, or sometimes it's late June. And so I have my key right up here.
Jaemeel, Big Brother key.
Mine's up there on the wall.
He's got his
behind
over
me.
there. They have keys, whatever that means. I'm not going to ask any
We're
questions,
key brothers.
I don't want to talk about Big Brother anymore.
Big Brother keys. I don't know. Like I read into that what you will, I guess. But yeah, we got Survivor and Big Brother Canada most recently in the can, and you can check out those podcasts, and other channels too here on the network. Davan.
So many channels on these networks, don't we? We've got what do we got here? We've got hold on, I'm trying to add more things because I just remembered other things. So bear with me a moment. Oh, this isn't helping. It's just gonna promote me. But that's fine. We'll do that. Alright. So we've got X-Rated the X-Men Animated Review Show. We're almost done season 4. We've got lots of interviews. It's Cameo Fest 1996 this Tuesday. Look forward to that.
So
We've
all the
got
X-Dudes need to show up.
Yep, all the
I was all
X-Dudes,
ready to do it last
including you two.
Tuesday. I was all ready to do it last Tuesday. I have to see if I can fit it in this week. I don't know.
Yep. And my co-host has the Graphic Histories podcast. Interviews many interesting people in film and comics and stuff like that. We've got Eamon on track.
Yes.
Keeping it real. Reviewing albums and stuff. I think I'm on the next one. I'm going to make him listen to Sata Masagana by the Abyssinians.
I'm going to go on there soon, and we're going to review the band's The Last Waltz. Maybe get Jeff Mader involved too.
There's also, we have Michael Chan and Alex Blackburn, the Hellbound podcast, and Trivial Debates.
Yep.
What's happening in July?
The Office themed one with Jody Simpson and Michael. No, what's his name? Kevin Phillips. Is that his name? Sorry, it's been a while.
No, something Phillips. Yeah. Jason Phillips.
Jason R. Phillips. I'm sorry, Jason. We're Facebook friends. I should know your name.
Can I suggest that I'm not a part of that?
I would also not be part of that. I'm not a huge Office fan.
No thank you.
I think it's fine, but I don't get the absolute obsession with it. Yeah. I think that
the host should just make Office UK questions and just screw everyone over. But that's just me.
Davan for BB Can 12. What does
Big
that
Brother
mean?
Canada? Big Brother Canada.
Devin, you'd be great on Big Brother Canada because you'd be so done with all of the stuff that happens on the show. You're just like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Wait, I have to read this
about. Why are you guys gossiping? What's wrong with you people?
I have to talk to Marsha the Moose.
Yeah. I'm voting for this person. I don't like them.
Can't help you with the KBBL thing, Sam. And of course, if you like Star Trek, we've got many,
do.
many wonderful things over. Oh, I do too. Over at Live Long and Podcast, we're doing Oh, look at that Spock! Jameel's got a Spock pop.
Live Long and Podcast. We just
Popping some
reviewed
Spock.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds last night, episode 1 of season 2, titled The Broken Circle. Jameel, did you see it?
Did
I started watching it and then I realized I didn't finish Strange New Worlds last season. So that's good news for me. That's good news for me. I get to. I'm going to watch more episodes. I'm going to watch like 3. Go back 3 episodes, which I'm pretty sure I've already watched. I'm going to watch it again, right? Because I love Strange New Worlds. It's so great. I get to see it twice. So nice, see it twice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, fair enough. And we were launching a probe. We're launching a Class L probe on Sunday.
Ooh, Class L.
Yeah,
nice.
And,
What do you? What's the probe looking into?
We don't know yet, so I don't want to. Yeah, that's why I haven't launched the event yet. I don't know what I might be going myself with. I may investigate a question from the last debate 9, which is the holodeck is not big enough to host a baseball game, regardless of all of its trickery and technology.
Well, that's a good point. How would they achieve those ends? How can all of those crew?
How can everything be achieved?
Remember in Voyager, they had like that Talaxian resort that they all tried to go to and hang out with, and they were going surfing and different things there as well. How can they achieve those things with the trickery?
I've got my choice narrowed down to 3. That one, or the Tribbles are legitimately terrifying, or the Dominion would defeat the Borg in an all-out war.
Okay. We should also have an episode coming up with our playing of Star Trek Resurgence, which recently came out about a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
Have any of you started playing it?
No, soon. But Ashley Millard didn't give it a good review, so I've been a little less enthused.
Okay. And then also, a little breaking news: a new Star Trek game was recently announced, which is going to be a real-time strategy game called Star Trek Infinite. More details to come. I certainly will not be playing it, but if RTSs are your bag, check it out.
Well, there you have it. If that's your bag, baby, do it. Any final words, fellas?
I'm excited for the next Spider-Man movie. I'm excited for the next Marvel movie. I'm even excited to see The Flash tomorrow, even though it's DC. James Gunn said it was a good movie, so I'm gonna go along.
James Gunn said it was a good movie. I think he has a little skin in the game.
He might be biased. He might be a company man. I don't know, but we'll see. So.
We should look back to see if he said like Thor: Love and Thunder was the best movie. It was a Marvel-tastic time. He probably was.
It had the Guardians in it. Yeah.
Yes. That's it. You all take care. I'm excited for this. The truth of the matter is, folks, there is no superhero fatigue. There's only bad movie fatigue.
Yep.
I'm with you.
And remember, the Mary Mater Marvel Society wants you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's Spider Society.
So the Mary Mater Spider Society wants to stick you real close.
Remember, use your fingertips, not your palms.
No, the other way around.
Jazz hands, spider hands.
Stop Spider-Man!
You? Me?
And then I looked at my uncle and...
Let me guess. He died?